Good morning, everyone. I hope you're doing your best to stay cool and dry today. I'm taking a second to make sure my phone is switched off. And it's my great pleasure to welcome you all here this morning. The incidental music I'm playing this morning is by gay African-American composer Billy Strayhorn, commonly known as Duke Ellington's right-hand man. But beautiful, wonderful, gorgeous tunes that I love to play.
Welcome. Welcome to Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist Congregation. Welcome into the cool. Welcome into the calm. And welcome back into your body. Here to relax and rest and breathe. Welcome in from the dust and the heat, the hazy glare and the steaming hurts of the daily assault on our bodies and our minds and our hearts, our spirits. Welcome to a people and a place and programs that are bound up in engaging and loving and transforming. Our orientation, our focus, our destination is the beloved community, is collective liberation, is a better world for all. So whoever you are and wherever you are at, whenever you are joining us, you are most welcome here. Here, in the unceded lands of the Otham and Yaqui peoples, in the desert that has been named Sonoran. Here in the sanctuary of Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist, our spiritual home for our faith as we bring it to life through our actions together. Here, as you are, your body, your mind, your heart, and your spirit, you are welcome. I'm Reverend Matthew, and I proudly serve alongside all of you as your minister and pastor. Also serving you are our professional staff, Chris, our music director, Stacy, our coordinator of religious exploration, who is away today, Tay, our new engagement coordinator, and Stephanie, our congregational administrator, who works Monday through Friday, 9 to noon. I'm grateful for all of their experience and intuition, their ingenuity and innovation as they keep our congregation flourishing and challenge us to live into our mission and reach forward in all that we seek. And we could not do it, of course, without you. That would be a little ridiculous, wouldn't it, for us, just the 5 of us, to show up and run a church without you? Because the world we are seeking can only be found together. And so in that spirit, I'm going to invite all of you in the roomers to turn and wave to our online Zoomers and the camera. Just wave a good morning as Vince pans the camera. And now I want to invite you all to rise in body or spirit and greet one another. So let this be an invitation. Let the continued and joyful greeting of one another be an invitation to join together after the service for refreshments in our Oasis room. Now, together, our Sundays are made possible through the efforts of our AV squad, our welcomers, and our hospitality team, who today is led by Elizabeth Van Horn. Elizabeth, thank you. Together, our congregation is cared for and led by its members and friends. And together, our children learn the values of our faith, our chosen identity as Unitarian Universalists. Together, we fulfill our mission: engage, love, transform. In the midst of this mission, we focus today on those who have taken up roles among us, recognizing the very teams that give us their experience and ingenuity as lay leaders of our congregation. Today, we will commission our Pastoral Care Committee and our Board of Trustees. And we will be commissioning one another as the carers and leaders of our children in our religious exploration program. And all of this and more, every time we gather, we fulfill our mission to engage one another, to know and be known, to share and live into what is highest and ultimate for each and for all, and to discover together a transformation of our hearts and our larger community into that beloved liberation for all. Welcome. It is good to be together.
Good morning, everyone. Today's chalice lighting is Toward a Place of Wholeness by Viola Abbott. We are Unitarian Universalists. When we lift up our 7 principles, some of us think of them as a form of theology, but they are more important to our collective than that. They do not tell us what we should believe, they tell us how we should be. They tell us how we should act in the larger world and with each other. We are brought here today by the fact that Unitarian Universalism has fallen short of the image that was presented to the world and to many of those who embrace this religion. But we are also brought here today by the truth that Unitarian Universalism has shifted course to move towards a place of wholeness, a place that perhaps never existed for us as a denomination. It has been a long and sometimes unforgiving road to today, but we are here today because we are mindful of that past and because we have hope for the future. We want the practice of this faith to be a fulfilling manifestation of its promise. Open your hearts. Seek new ways of understanding. Come, let us worship together. Blessed be.
We're going to sing in a moment, I promise. But I want to tell you a story first. Late in the evening of June 27th, 1969, at the Stonewall Inn in New York City, a very, very motley-looking bunch of people had gathered. The Stonewall was a bar run by the mafia, and its clientele was a pretty interesting, let's say, assortment of people from the lower levels of what we now call LGBTQ society. Drag queens, young men thrown out of their house and homeless for being gay, the growing and only slowly becoming self-aware trans community, and people from all, particularly men, who were of a certain bent, shall we say? Delicate nature. He's a delicate boy, people said of me. Okay. Places like this were routinely raided by the police. And early in the morning of June 28th was no different. The mafia didn't care who you were as long as you spent money. The police didn't care as long as they got their payoffs from the mafia. The people in the Stonewall that night finally said, enough. And they stood up in the hours, those early morning hours, as the police raid happened. And the lights in the bar came on a moment before the police entered because the owners knew the police were coming. And the people in the Stonewall, rather than scattering, basically stood their ground and said, no, you're not doing this again. Not here, not now. It was a hot night, and a lot of legend and folklore has developed about this song, about this event. If every person who claimed to be at Stonewall that night over the years were actually at Stonewall, Stonewall would have to be the size of Madison Square Garden. We don't know, honestly don't know, who threw the first brick. A lot of people will make a strong case that it was Marsha P. Johnson, who was a woman assigned male at birth, but lived her entire life as the wonderful, beautiful, strong woman she was. And supposedly she threw the first brick at Stonewall. Whether that's true or not, well, it's lost in history. We don't know. But that night, they stood up, we stood up, and fought back. And for a couple of nights thereafter, as the police tried to get control of the situation in Greenwich Village, the event became to be known as the Stonewall Riots, and every year since then, at the end of June, we mark it. The first year after was a simple demonstration in New York City and many other cities across the country. And then slowly over the years, it morphed into this now Pride month of June. But the first one started small and simple, just people standing together and saying, we are here and we will be who we are. And we don't care what you think. We are who we are, and we will be here. A few years later, 1978, Harvey Milk had become supervisor, representative of the Castro district in San Francisco. And he was responsible for a whole lot of wonderful things in San Francisco. However, he and Mayor Moscone were murdered by Dan White in their offices at City Hall. And a giant protest rose up from the Castro district and marched on City Hall. And a lot of people, with very careful control of the group, kept it from turning violent. That evening, among other things, they quickly threw up a stage, they created a rally event, and kept it a peaceful event. They were not so lucky a little bit later, a number of weeks, months later, when Dan White was acquitted of the murders, and a riot did break out. But the night of the murders, a young singer-songwriter, Holly Near, came in from where she was living in Northern California, and the legend goes that on the way in the car, she wrote a song. Will you stand and join me in singing that song? We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a justice-seeking people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are young and old together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. Can I see the next slide before we go on? That's it. That's the right one. It's the next verse. That is a little different on it. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a land of many colors, and we are singing, singing for our lives. This is the one. Ms. Near has changed this verse. Different from, this is the way it's printed in our hymnal. She has changed this verse to, we are all of us together. We are all of us together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are all of us together, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. We are a gentle, loving people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. Thank you.
We are a joyful people of celebration, and we are a sorrowful people of comfort. We come together each week in gratitude and in grace within this awesome span between our joys and our sorrows. And that's when we hold one another with celebration and in comfort. Sally? We pour out water collected from the Sonoran skies, from our homes, from our travels. This is us, gentle and angry, justice seeking, young and old, of many colors, all of us together, and loving, loving, loving. And we immerse stoned in the waters for our individual joy and sorrow. We give him voice that as a people we may respond. We may respond and celebrate, or we may offer comfort.
So the first thing I wish to say is it's sort of a joy, but it's also a huge thank you. And so Pat Desai has asked that this be shared. Last November, the Desai family faced the unavoidable decision to place their son, Sanjay, in a nursing home. It was an emotionally wrenching transition, but Tom Bunch and Reverend Matthew, through the MVUU Care Committee, helped us every week cope with the changes. It is our joy that MVUU has such a committee ready to hold hands with families like ours in troubled times. Many thanks to Tom Bunch and Reverend Matthew. I also have a sorrow that Dorothy Jacobs asked to be shared. A mass shooting took place in my hometown of Rochester Hills, Michigan. The actual shooting took place in the Brooklands Plaza near Brooklands Elementary, where I went to school. 9 people were wounded, 3 critically.
So we pause and we hold all that we've heard, knowing that among us there are still more sorrows. There's still more joys. We pause and we ready ourselves to respond in celebration, in lifting up one another, and we pause in preparation to say, "How are you?" And then to listen carefully and quietly as someone shares the sorrow in their heart. If you ask us, we will share all of that with you. You just need to trust that not only will this congregation respond as you've heard that we do, but that we will listen to you and who you are. Now, leading us through all of this, if you come front, is our pastoral care team. And I'd like to invite Tom and Michelle. Joel and Savannah and Cheryl are with us today in spirit. And with your individual intuition and great experience, you serve our congregation by personally listening and visiting and giving rides and advocating and reaching out with notes and cards to care for our people. You can always let them know what your need is. You also guide our congregation in its caring first by your example. You show up when there's a need. And also through the meal trains and the workshops and the planning of our Blue Holiday service, and every week stepping up and giving our caring report. So on behalf of our people, people of joy and people of sorrow, thank you for your service. You led us already to celebrate joy and to comfort our sorrows. And with gratitude, then, we would commission you for your ongoing work. Mountain Vista Pastoral Care Team, Sally and Tom and Michelle, and Joel and Savannah and Cheryl, who'll be watching this at some other time. First and foremost, I love you. The work that you are doing on behalf of our congregation is some of the hardest in any church home. You risk vulnerability in being with us, in showing up when there is a need, in risking the tears of joy and laughter of being there when our bellies hurt because we've laughed so hard, or because our eyes are dry because we've cried so hard. You were present in doing this service when we are ecstatic and amazing and when we're hurt. And so I love you for risking your hearts and sharing in it all. I love you for being fully human with us. And together as a congregation, then, we commission you as our pastoral caregivers. As the minister and pastor of Mountain Vista UU, I am grateful for your willingness to serve in this role, and I invite you all to read this slide. Today, we call you forth from among us. We place our trust in you, asking you to sit with us in our pain and celebrate with us in our joy. We ask you to be our spiritual companions, witnesses to our lives' paths. I charge you then, as members of the Pastoral Care Committee, to listen with compassion to your fellow congregants, to care for yourselves and for one another, to tend to the sacred in your encounters, and to ask for our help when you need it. May you know that your care is powerful. May you know that I'm here to guide and support you. May you know that you are enough. Next slide. As your minister, and I invite you to join me in this, as your minister and as your congregation, we now commission you as our pastoral care team for this coming year. Thank you for all you will give. And your response, please.
With gratitude and grace, we leap forward to answer the call of our hearts. We move happily together into the unknown. We go forth to engage our corner of the world. Together we transform the world through good works of compassion. and love for all.
As my elders have taught me, amen, aho. May it be so as we have chosen it to be. Thank you. I invite you now to a time of meditation, of breath and body, of rest and relaxation, of soul and spirit. Breathe in and out as your body allows. In and out with maybe a little longer on the out. In and feel grounded, a connection to place. Out and feel the release, the connection to possibility. Breathe in and feel the breadth of community surrounding you. Breathe out and feel the distance that still connects us. Breathe freely, with dignity, community, ancestry. This moment holds much. This moment and all that you bring with you holds so much. And allow it to be. Allow the hard part of life to be. And the ease to be. Breathe and just rest. There's no place to go. There's nothing to carry. Breathe and be held in the lineage of your life, the presence of these people, and your own dignity. Have you ever wondered what a Unitarian Universalist Board of Trustees is like? Probably not. However, in this moment, you may imagine long, minutia-filled, even tense meetings. You might be imagining mysterious star chamber proceedings where everyone is wearing cloaks and whispering. You may imagine even frenzied or frantic gatherings with little or no apparent rhyme or reason. And some of you who have been board members may be thinking of these times. Well, none of these images are at all accurate. They share certain characteristics with bees. Bees are patient and detail-oriented, but they can be intense when disrupted. The inner workings of hives are often hidden from us, but the mystery of bees lies in how well they quietly work together. They can appear chaotic and random, disorganized, and yet they function well, doing what is the best for the colony, doing what's best for the world around them. And if you can imagine that, then you begin to see what a UU board does. They're as busy as bees. And MVUU's Board of Trustees is no exception. They have duties that they share together, as well as individual roles they've taken on, but they work like bees, devoted and diligent, doing what is needed for our congregation. And so I'd like to invite the Board of Trustees for the coming fiscal year to join me up here. Please, shoulder to shoulder. We didn't practice, but so Aaron and Theta and Melody and Mary and Robin, and Pat is present with us in spirit. In a free religious community, to serve is the highest expression of devotion and commitment and love. And Jess, I thought Jess was going to be here, sorry. So I had listed her as being here. And Jess is with us in spirit. To be asked to lead is the highest honor. The members of our congregation have chosen you to lead in this coming year. And the relationship between a board and a congregation is one of deep respect and mutual regard. The shared work of the church is the work of the people. It is the work of building the world of which we dream. It may require time spent poring over budget sheets, hours spent in meeting where the small details are hashed out. It may manifest in shared laughter or outright frustration from time to time. But it is always sacred, for it is the pursuit of the beloved community. Service is an act of faith. Service done faithfully in love is the work of justice and community building. And this is why you have asked these people that they serve you with devotion and diligence. And to do this, they need your trust and support. So members of Mountain Vista UU, I invite you to name your relationship with these leaders with this slide. We offer our love and trust to you, our Board of Trustees, responding when you seek input, showing up when you tell us of the work needs to be done, and listening careful when you speak of the life of the church. And in response, would you, the Mountain Vista Board of Trustees, read the first of your responses? And there's Pat joining us on the screen.
We will be devoted and diligent in our work, bringing our best selves and practicing self-care and open-heartedness, tending with love the details of our work. We will employ our mission to engage, love, and transform, as the means to beloved liberation for all.
And so together with you all, the congregation, we commission you as our Board of Trustees. So I invite you all to read this slide with me. As your minister and as your congregation, we now commission you as our Board of Trustees for this coming year. Thank you for all that you give. And in response,
With gratitude and grace, we lead forward to answer the call of our mission. We move happily together into the unknown. We go forth to engage our corner of the world. Together, we transform the world through good works of compassion and love for all.
may you know that your work is powerful. May you know that I'm here to guide you and support you. May you know that you are enough. Amen. Aho, may it be so as we choose it to be. Thank you.
This next hymn, number 130 in the Gray Book, O Liberating Rose. This is another one of those hymns that if you have just at first glance, you're like, this is just another kind of churchy hymn, until you learn a little bit more about it. The text is by Mark Bellatini, and I want to make sure I get the dedications right. It was written for the dedication service of the Mark DeWolf House, a home for people with AIDS supported by the University Unitarian Church in Seattle, where a dear friend of mine is actually music director up there right now. The text is based on a conversation about new kinds of theistic language that Mark had with Canadian Unitarian Universalist minister Mark DeWolf. And Mark DeWolf, Reverend DeWolf, went on to die of AIDS not terribly long after that conversation. The tune is by Larry Phillips, and it's written as a gift for his father, and the pitches were derived from some of the different ways we have of turning text and words, and in this case, names of his family into musical notes. I also want to share with you briefly my theory of group singing. This is a rangy tune. It covers some different grounds. There's some high parts, there's some low parts. And one of the great reasons for us to be here together is that, not everyone's going to be able to sing the high parts. And not everyone's going to be able to sing the low parts. But those of you who can sing the high parts, sing your hearts out. Those of you who can sing the low notes, also, I commend you to sing your hearts out. Please rise and join us in O Liberating Rose. And we are without Joel today and probably for the next month or so. He's off on a well-earned vacation, so sing out. I will sing as much as I can, but I've got other things I'm worried about too. Let's hear the tune first of all.
again. My name is Samar Adi, one of today's pastoral associates. Did you ever wonder at the similarities between bees and children? To be honest, I did not until I wrote this. So granted, they are an entirely different species, but surprisingly, there are some commonalities between them. They're both busy, constantly on the move, bees with a clear purpose to sustain their hive, moving from flower to flower, and children through exploring their world, asking questions, so many questions, and learning through play. Bees are social, communicating through dancing, information about where to find food, working collectively to build their hives, and children thriving in social settings, forming friendships, learning skills, and how to communicate verbally and non-verbally. So they are both explorers and curious about the world around them, bees exploring their environment. This helps them drive their survival. And children are naturally curious, asking why, exploring new surroundings, learning through curiosity-driven play. Children offer so much to a congregation. Through teaching them, we learn more. Their curiosity and questions challenges us to find answers that we might not have looked for. It lets us delve into topics on a deeper level. Their energy and passion reminds us of our own growth and development. The relationships fostered between children and adults in a congregation offers a valuable service to all and increases our connection to community. This year, MVUU taught OWL our whole lives for the first time in years. We had the opportunity to reach out to our community and offer a scientifically based sexuality education program, and the interest was there. With OWL, a goal was and is to create an atmosphere where questions are welcomed and children remember having a positive experience with talking about their bodies. The OWL educators worked hard and accomplished that. They taught the curriculum, they fostered connections with the children and the families who attended, and they answered questions on a variety of topics. My search history was very interesting. We will continue offering OWL, and you'll see announcements over the coming years. This year also, religious exploration had quite a few new faces volunteering in RE. Those of you who gave of your time and talents, I am so appreciative for all that you have done. You've formed connections with the children, you've allowed them to connect with a larger congregation and feel a sense of welcome and trust here. Whether you know it or not, my kids have talked about many of you at home. You've played with them, answered their questions, and allowed them to explore while you looked out for them. And so with all my heart, thank you.
And the need in the coming year for service to MVUU's children and families and to our broader community is present and real. We generously offer our time and talent and treasure in our partnerships with the schools, Hendricks and Laguna Elementary Schools in Flowing Wells District. And yet those are not places where we teach our Unitarian Universalist identity. That work we do here. And as Summer mentioned, it's work that we do, and we might not even know we're doing it. We do it certainly with programs and teaching justice and truth, but we always teach it with our relationships, with how we are together. Our children and their families need us to nurture our Unitarian Universalist faith identity and to actively and with intention teach it to our children so that they can live it courageously in our world. And so with that knowledge, I invite us to commission ourselves, our entire congregation, as teachers and guides of religious exploration. So members and friends, professionals, staff, please rise in body or in spirit and read these words together. Please rise. Today, we call ourselves forth. Our children and our families have placed their trust in us to go with them into the world, to witness all the dust and heat, and to respond beautifully and bravely together. We are all companions, witnesses and participants of our lives' many and various paths. I charge you, Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist congregation, to listen with compassion to our children, to care for yourselves and for one another, to heed the call of our religious professionals when they ask you to give your time and your talent and your treasure, and to tend to the sacred in your encounters with our youngest and their families. Know that your presence in one another's lives is powerful. Know that I'm here to guide and support you. Together, you are enough. And so I commission you to fully participate in our religious exploration, giving your time and talent and treasure here today and for all of those who come tomorrow. Thank you for all you will give. Please read these words.
With gratitude and grace, we lead forward to answer the call of tomorrow. We move happily together into the unknown. We go forth to engage our corner of the world. Together we transform the world through good works of compassion and love for all.
Amen. Aho. And may it be so because we choose it to be so. Please be seated. I invite you now to a time of prayer, not with eyes closed or heads bowed, but with eyes filled with the faces of the many around you, with heads held high in recognition of our community of faith, caring and compassionate leaders together. For a Leader by John O'Donohue. May you have the grace and wisdom to act kindly, learning to distinguish between what is personal and what is not. May you be hospitable to criticism. May you never put yourself at the center of things. May you act not from arrogance, but out of service. May you work on yourself, building up and refining the ways of your mind and heart and spirit. May you show those who you work with that you see and respect them. May you learn to cultivate the art of presence in order to engage with those who you meet. And when someone fails or disappoints you, may the graciousness with which you engage be their stairway to renewal and refinement. May you treasure the gifts of the mind through reading and creative thinking so that you continue as a servant of the frontier, there where the new will draw its enrichment from the old. And may you never become a functionary. May you know the wisdom of deep listening, the healing of wholesome words, the encouragement of appreciative gaze, the decorum of held dignity, and the springtime edge of every bleak question. You have a mind that loves frontiers so that you can evoke the bright fields that lie beyond the view of the regular eye. May you have good friends to mirror your blind spots. May leadership be for you a true adventure of growth.
James Weldon Johnson, poet, teacher. Around 1900, he sat down to write a song, a poem in celebration of Lincoln's birthday. He was living and teaching in Florida at the time, and like every good creative, he may have started with the idea of writing a poem about Lincoln, but it drifted. And instead, he wrote a poem about the African American experience in the late 19th century. And the poem, Lift Every Voice and Sing, was first recited by school children in 1900. A little bit later, his brother, J. Rosamond Johnson, went and set it to music. Starting in about 1917, the NAACP started pushing the song as the Negro national anthem. And in many cases, in many places nowadays, it's still referred to as the Black National Anthem. The song has come and gone in terms of prominence, in terms of relevance, not never relevance, but in terms of different things to different communities at different times. For example, just recently, a few years ago, in the wake of George Floyd's murder, a number of people came and sang it again. After the song rose to prominence, the Johnsons, James Weldon and Jay Rosamond, brothers, moved to New York City to become active in Black Broadway, the Black theater, musical theater in New York, and they became quite prominent and quite important. That's a different story that hopefully we'll get to at some point, because there's some really gorgeous material out of all of that. I have a confession to make as a white music director, serving mostly white congregations. No difference here. I have sung this song, I have used this song in service, and I've made a case to use this song in service many, many times. I have also made a strong case for deleting the second verse. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat, have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers died? We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come, treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past, till we now stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. Yeah, that's really awkward and uncomfortable. And I apologize for not embracing the awkward and uncomfortable, because for some people, this has been their life. Will you join me and stand as we sing? Lift every voice and sing. It's 149 in the gray hymnal if you have one handy. Otherwise, the words will be on the screen. And once again, there are high notes, there are low notes. If you're good with the high notes, sing out the high notes. If you're good with the low notes, sing out the low notes. That's what we're here for, to sing together. Thank you.
be seated.
Thank you for joining us today. Before we go into announcements, I wanted to share a little about my experience over the last year. I served on the nominating committee for my first year of a 3-year term. And so for some of you who don't know what that entails, one of the functions of the nominating committee is to identify possible leadership positions, people for those positions. I really enjoyed this past year working and serving with Mary Nell Hoover and Ann Tatum, and it taught me about some areas of congregational life that I didn't have a lot of familiarity with, as well as gave me the opportunity to work closely on several projects. So one of the areas I really enjoyed was getting to know people and their talents and how they were involved in a variety of ways in this congregation. I had the chance to interview several of you, quite a few of you, over the past year, and I heard over and over how your service offered something in return. For many, it gave you the chance to build meaningful connections with others. For others, another common theme that came up had to do with personal development, whether from learning new skills or navigating new situations and interpersonal dynamics. And then there was the idea of giving back, whether to this congregation or the wider community, in terms around global justice, the arts, environmental awareness, and all the areas of social justice work that we do. Thank you all for your contributions and service, and I really look forward to what this upcoming new year will bring. Announcements. First slide for youth on their own. As we exit after our service, there will be 2 baskets. One, the wooden basket, will be for the offerings for the works of the church, and the other, the woven basket, will be for our program of the month that we donate to. Youth on Their Own has a special place in my heart for me. It supports the high school graduation and continuing success of youth experiencing homelessness. Many times when I would follow as a therapist children who were placed from foster home to foster home, one of the things, sometimes all they had was a garbage bag that they were able to bring some of their belongings. And Youth on Their Own really was able to provide them over and over again with backpacks, with clothes, with money for the necessities of life that they needed. And so it's a wonderful organization, and anything you give will be appreciated. Our next slide. First aid and CPR training. So in the newsletter, you might have seen next Saturday, June 29th, we are holding a CPR and first aid certification class here at MVUU. There is a fee, but we have scholarships available, and so all who are interested can come. So continue checking our newsletter for registration information.
I think that has changed slightly.
There was going to be 2. We will be sending out new information about the first aid and CPR class. Thank you, Aaron. Our final announcement today is that General Assembly, our faith's annual meeting, concludes this afternoon. Our Sunday service next week, June 30th, will be a sharing of the General Assembly's concluding worship service. It's not a rerun, though. So if you're rushing out of here to go home and to watch that, you'll see something a little different next week because we're going to re-edit and recraft it so it better fits our congregation. Many of you may wish to view that service via Zoom. And yet we will also be here at our church house to welcome, watch, and share in hospitality together. And the reason why I'm offering this announcement is as of 9 a.m. today, a years-long process of considering changes to our association's bylaws and covenant came to a conclusion. Yesterday, delegates from our many congregations participated in a final vote. 80.2% chose to affirm the changes. We could put up the slide, please. This is the image that goes along with those changes. I could not have predicted what would happen, but I am thrilled. And I am concerned because I know that many people have found our 7 principles to be really clear statements of their personal belief. That doesn't change. that does not change. As Unitarian Universalists, we have no creed. We have no doctrine. You believe what you believe, and you come and share it here, and together we find truth together. If the 7 principles still speak to you, they still speak to you. If this new image and the ideas and values that go with it, if that speaks to you, that speaks to you as well. I have shared with you before. I believe this entire process, this year-long process, is simply our challenging ourselves to grow. And so, with many here at Mountain Vista who studied the proposed changes, we practiced our mission, and we engaged, and we loved, and we transformed in a series of classes and study. And among us, I witnessed growth through deeper understanding. We developed a collective affirmation. We agreed our faith needs to change with the times. It does. And we also agree it does not need ever to change radically and leave people behind. That's not who we are at Mountain Vista Unitarian Universalist. And we also agreed we always must be more fully centered on love. In fact, our Mountain Vista covenant begins with love as our guide. It has led us to this point, to this day, and that will lead us further. And so may love continue to be our guide as a congregation, as leaders, and as Unitarian Universalists in all that's to come. Not because of the votes of the Unitarian Universalist Association, but because we choose. We choose to love. We choose to act in love. We choose to fail in love. We choose to live in love again. May it be so.
Today's closing, Releasing the Flame, It Is Our Journey Together by Deborah Hafner. We are on a journey. We didn't plan it. We didn't have time for the bread to rise. We may find ourselves in the wilderness, hungry, thirsty, doubting that we should have ever come. But look around. We are not alone. It is our journey together, a journey to our better selves, a journey to a better world, a journey to a more promised land. Blessed be.
In 1938, another, shall we say, delicate young man, born in Ohio, lived for a while in North Carolina, but ultimately spent most of his time growing up in the Pittsburgh area, in the Homewood section of Pittsburgh. Billy Strayhorn, 1938, in a dressing room at what was then called the Stanley Theater. And the theater still stands. I've been in the dressing room where this supposedly happened. He met his idol, Duke Ellington, who was so amazingly impressed with young Mr. Strayhorn's compositions that he invited Mr. Strayhorn to come to New York and visit him at his home up in Sugar Hill in Harlem. And the legend goes that Strayhorn wrote down the instructions. How do you get to Sugar Hill? You take the train to Penn Station, and then you cross to the subway, and then you take the A train.